made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Dr. Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic bootcamp, MoveWell University, the Black Diamond Club, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Universal Traction Systems, Vantage Point Marketing, Element Mattresses, Imaging Services, Zinget Solutions, Chiro Thin, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, and Everest Chiropractic Bootcamp. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 69 of Chiro Hustle. I'm your co-host Luke Millette. Here's your host Jim Chester.
So this episode we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Josh Lawlor, and if you want to learn more about the Troxell Internship Program and the Gonstead work that is derived from that, stay tuned. What's your chiropractic story and what influenced you to become a chiropractor?
My chiropractic story started way back when I was young. I can't remember exactly, maybe 7, 8, somewhere in there, but my mom started taking us to our family chiropractor. And I remember vividly, although she thinks I tell the story different, but I remember my mom bent over next to the washer and dryer just in excruciating pain. I can still visualize it today. And anyway, as time went, I realized she had been going to this chiropractor, and slowly and surely she started taking the rest of the family, all the kids and dad, and so we'd all go get our adjustments. And as time went by, you get into high school and start doing your thing. I would kind of drift in and out of when I thought I might need an adjustment. Then when I got into college, I got much smarter, of course, as I got into college, and so I would very rarely go get an adjustment, maybe once or twice a year, or whatever I thought was necessary. But I had, as college went by, I had some lower back problems that started to develop and progress until the time I was a junior, and especially by a senior. And I had done some therapy and worked the trainer. I was playing basketball, Mount Saint Clare in Clinton, Iowa. And so I had a fair amount of stress. I did carpentry work, different things. Anyway, long story short, I went back to my chiropractor because one day after practice, laid down on the floor, went to get up, and I couldn't get up off the floor. And it had been a hard practice, and I had been sore that week. But I literally couldn't get off the floor. When you're supposed to be young, 20 years old and Superman, and there was just no getting up off the floor. So a friend of mine helped me back to my grandfather's place, which is where I was living at the time. And my mom called Dr. Troxell, who was our family chiropractor. And she says, "Why is his back so bad?" And T goes, "Well, what do you want me to do? He's never here," which was true because I was managing my spine, what I thought needed to be done, which of course was based on nothing. I had no understanding of what my spine needed. But so I finally drug my tail back into T's office, and he sat me down and he hung my films up on the wall, and he explained to me what was going on. I had a vertebra in my low back that was dropped down and back. And he said, if we don't get serious with this, it's going to haunt you the rest of your life. And so I did. I got real serious with it. And over the next period of year time, I had this knife in my right glute that slowly disappeared, and everything got better, And so it was about that time during my senior year, I did a study out of North Carolina. And I was getting ready. I was thinking about medical school, actually. And I started thinking about this chiropractic thing. So I was out at North Carolina, and I was studying chemotherapy drugs, of all things, and building my resume, and I was enjoying my experience. I watched this lady walk up the street one day, and I was sitting waiting for a friend. As I watched this lady walk up the street, she was kind of limping. She had a cane. And so I thought about it. I'm like, if I'm going to do something for this woman down the road, then whatever career I choose, what would my product be for that person, for her? And so I took a napkin, I wrote down the 3 products in medicine. And those unique products are drugs, surgery, and radiation. And I said, okay. So then I put a spot for physical therapy because I was considering physical therapy. I'd worked with a considerable number of therapists, and I couldn't write down a specific product. They stretched and exercised and did different modalities, but no specific product. And then I got to chiropractic, and I thought, man, what is the chiropractic product? I knew what my experience had been. No one else could help me, but chiropractic did. And so at that time, I flew back home with my wife. We went to a wedding, and I met a friend of mine that was down at Palmer College of Chiropractic. And I went and listened to a speaker by the name of Guy Riekman. And he went through what a subluxation was and how a chiropractor addresses that. And right then and there, boom, I knew that was the direction we were going to go in. So I talked to my wife about it, and wasn't long after that, I was down at Palmer College, right down the street from where you grew up, Jim. Well, that's the long and short end of the story. There's a whole lot more that goes into it, but that's the long and short end of it.
So I know that we're getting to know each other on this podcast, and a lot of other people are getting to know about who Dr. Josh Lawlor is. But how long have you been out in practice now?
I'm right at 13 years, Jim, just this October.
And I know that the next question I have for you is going to be based on what makes you unique in the chiropractic world. And just to foreshadow that question for you, I got to know you at the Gonstead extravaganza this past year, and you were doing some work up there with the Troxell Institute, I believe. So what does make you unique in the chiropractic world? And is it because you work with the Gonstead group, and is it because of the Troxell Intern Program?
How much time do you have, Jim?
well, the pre-frame for this gives you the long answer, so go ahead.
I'll try to be brief. That pretty much what you just asked about has been my career with chiropractic since I got started. As I mentioned, Dr. Troxell was my chiropractor growing up. Little did I know, he was one of the chiropractors in the world. I mean, when you talk about the art, philosophy and science of finding and correcting vertebral subluxations, he was one of the guys. And I was so fortunate in retrospect to not only have been under his care, but to have known him. He was a big influence on me, not only as my chiropractor, but as my mentor. And as I studied at Palmer, I got more in depth in the Gonstead work. In the program that I now direct, the Troxell Intern Program, is a nonprofit program that is just north of Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport. And what it does is it supports students and chiropractors in their study of chiropractic utilizing the Gonstead system. And so what you and I met, Jim, up at the extravaganza at the Gonstead Clinic, that was with a parenting organization called Gonstead Methodology Institute. And we were co-hosting that seminar with another Gonstead group called Gonstead Clinical Studies Society. And of course, the Gonstead Clinic itself is taken care of and looked after by the Gonstead Foundation, who Tom Podisk is the president of currently. And so there's a lot of really wonderful people in Gonstead Chiropractic right now. And what makes my spot in chiropractic a little unique, and I'm very fortunate to be there, is I'm right in the middle hub, for lack of a better term, of a lot of fabulous chiropractors that utilize the Gonstead work in their offices. And any Gonstead person will tell you that their objective as being a Gonstead person is not really to be a Gonstead chiropractor or a technician, but we study what Dr. Gonstead did so we can be the best chiropractors that we can be. And the reason we study Dr. G is because he was that darn good. I mean, he was, historically, you put him in the top 5 of historic chiropractors, especially when we talk about clinical results. And so the intern program right now, I think we've got about 15 interns. We hover anywhere from 7 up to 22, and it's a constant revolving door. I started directing the program in 2007 when T passed away. The last night he walked out, he goes, I'll see you on Monday. And that never come to fruition. It just wasn't meant to be. He passed that weekend, and I just continued on doing what I was doing. I had already bought the practice for him. He was from him. He was working for me for a month, and his intention was to continue right on working and teaching. He just loved to teach and become a better chiropractor, and at the same time help somebody else do the same thing in the process. And that's really our mission. That's what we do. We want to engage the students and get them thinking, and we want them to to get them thinking like chiropractors. How are you going to help people when you get out in the field? And then we teach pelvic bench, cervical chair, all the things that go with the Gonstead work, the different components of the system. So that's the uniqueness we've got. And we really think, they say Gonstead practiced for 55 years. He maybe had 250,000 hours of clinical experience, 250,000 hours. And that's completely substantial in today's world in any profession. To find that kind of clinical expertise is really difficult to come across. But what we know in our program is that if we can get to the students and help them become as good a chiropractors as they're supposed to become, and they go out in the world and they touch all those people in their lives, we can exponentially affect a bigger portion of the population that way. And that's what team is. So, that's the unique aspect of our office. And I can't tell you how hard the interns work. We got a celebration I'd like to tell you about a little bit later here coming up, Jim. In fact, I'd like to invite you to it. So,
oh wow,
yep,
thanks.
that's my background there.
Well, this podcast has been growing quite rapidly since its inception 68 episodes ago. And as we've gone through the whole process, we've heard a lot of people benefiting from learning the Gonstead technique. And the Troxell technique, excuse me for not knowing exactly all the parameters around it, but was a Troxell technique derived from Gonstead?
Well, actually, there is, and Dr. Troxell will tell you himself, there is no such thing as a Troxell technique. The Gonstead system and the Gonstead technique was Dr. Gonstead's alone. And that is what Dr. Troxell taught from day one to the day he passed away. Me and a friend of mine, we were just laughing the other day because he was telling me about a story when T adjusted him, and then T looks over and he goes, well, what do you think about that stabilization? Kale's like, T, it's perfect. What do you want me to tell you? And he's like, no, I think I got to do this a little better. He was doing that all the way to the end, but he always said, if I can just get a little closer to where Dr. Gonstead is at, he was happy. And Dr. T did not create any technique whatsoever. The reason he became so well known in chiropractic, and the reason the Troxell Intern Program is so well known, is because it gives a home for people to study Dr. Gonstead's technique.
Gotcha. And I think that's massive clarity to our audience too, is to understand that Troxell's work was based off of Gonstead's work.
Yeah, his whole effort day in and day out in the adjusting room was to do as close as he could to what Dr. Gonstead was doing. And I'm here to tell you, Jim, he did it well. He did it very well.
So now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the Troxell Intern Program. And I know that you were saying that you went through that program, but why is it so important for people to be able to have this as we develop the chiropractic profession going forward?
I think the intern program is a lot like many of the groups around the country and the world for that matter. There's a lot of Gonstead groups, Gonstead clubs. My brother Jeff's got a group down by Logan College. Dr. Lydia's got a group of Gonstead club students down by Atlanta, Georgia there. Dr. Meisel's down in Palmer, Florida. There's a wonderful group out in the West Coast. Dr. Jason Louis Wing up in Minnesota has a tremendous group. So our group's not the only one studying. But I will say outside of the schools, our group is quite unique in the sense that we're not school affiliated, quote unquote. We work closely with Palmer, and I love Palmer for working with us, but we're not tied to them in any size, shape, or form. So the students that study in our group, they'll come north of the Palmer College there 15, 20 minutes, and they'll work on studying x-ray, palpation technique, case management, instrumentation, 3 days of the week during the trimester. And so they put a tremendous amount of study in just to become an intern. They've got over 100 hours of advanced study. And then once they become an intern, they turn around and work with the other students in the same endeavor. And so they just repeat this process. And the more they can ingrain that and pass that, it's just like Michael Jordan going to the gym. He didn't just go 3 days of the week and then he was done. He was there all the time. And that's what the intern program is all about.
So do you have any favorite mantras or motivational quotes that help you with your commitment as a doctor?
I adopted this one over time from Dr. Troxell. It was turn the crank. And I always got a kick out of that because really when you're in private practice and you're out there practicing, that really is what it is. You can turn the crank as hard or as little as you would like. And of course, the harder you turn the crank, the faster and the better that engine purrs. So our mantra at the intern program is turn the crank. And I asked Dr. Kasperbar once, how does he do it? Because you go out and watch Dr. Kasperbar in Des Moines, and he would scope and gown every single patient. He talked to them about whatever things they needed to talk about that affected their health. He had their x-ray hanging on the wall every visit. He'd palpate, and then he'd make specific adjustments on every single person. And he'd do it from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m, and I mean nonstop patients. I go, how do you do it, Doc? And he goes, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. So turn the crank is our motto.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. One of my hobbies in the summer months is I hike up 14,000 foot mountains. And I've had people ask me how you do that, and I always say put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. We're climbing the perpetual mountain in chiropractic. And one thing I've observed over the years is if anybody ever gets to a spot in chiropractic, and I had a chiropractor specifically say this to me once. He said, how many times can you listen to a doctor go through X, Y, Z? And he was talking about a specific topic. And I thought, you're just not listening hard enough because there's always something to learn. And if you ever think you're at the top of that mountain, the proverbial mountain, there's always another mountain to climb. And, that's what we're called to do. And we've all got a job to do, and we need to do it.
So what's possible in the future with everything that you're doing and accomplishing?
In chiropractic, I really think what we do has a tremendous impact on the profession. The future of chiropractic, I think, is good. What chiropractic looks like in the future, I'm not sure. And the more we can maintain principled chiropractic, I think the better the future of chiropractic looks in terms of what it provides for people. We have to remember that chiropractic was started around the correction of a subluxation, an adjustment to the spine. And some of the diversity in chiropractic is very good, but we have to maintain our principles. And it really comes down to finding, accepting what you find, and correcting a subluxation. And that's what we keep preaching to the interns every cycle of student that comes through. And some of them really, really, really take it to heart and they run with it. They're some of our best leaders in the profession. And that's the best I can tell we can do right now from at least my practice, what we're doing.
Well, so if the profession continues the way it is, where do you see it looking in the next 20 years?
Like I say, it can go one of two directions. If we maintain our principles and keep teaching to find and correct subluxation, along with all the other developments that come in healthcare, we're going to be just fine. In fact, we should be leading healthcare in 20 years. But if we start diversifying and watering chiropractic down into a bunch of different things that it's really not, chiropractic will exist, but it may exist in the form of like an osteopathy, where they lost their principles and their original foundation. And they really, for the most part, they practice it as a medical practitioner does, diagnose and treat. And that is not chiropractic's hallmark. Dr. Gonstead was not a chiropractor. He was not a fan of a chiropractor. What he meant by find and accept the subluxation, the way you find it is, there's one best way to adjust a patient, and it's our job to figure that out and then perform that. That was the most important thing a chiropractor could do, is look for interference in the nerve system from brain to tissue cell. And if we lose that in chiropractic, the term chiropractic may exist in 20 years, but it may not really truly be chiropractic for the population. So I don't know what it'll look like in 20 years. All I can say is we got to all keep doing our part. And if we do that, I think it's going to be really, really good in 20 years.
And, back to what you just said, and this is a little bit off of script, but, you said that there's two ways that can go. And why do you suppose that option other than staying pure in chiropractic became attractive in the medical world when they already have something that's unique and specific to a different paradigm?
There's so many things out there that are seductive in life in different ways, and you can lose your focus. You can get distracted. And so I think what you guys are doing is great in terms of these podcasts. The more our leaders in the profession can continue, just like my mentors taught me the philosophical boundaries and the philosophical premises of chiropractic, we have to continue to teach that to the younger generations. I was just listening to a couple of the videos. The interns were getting ready for the 50th, and I was glad to hear both of them said, you know what, we have an opportunity to learn chiropractic philosophy and see it implemented in the practice. And that's really important. But if you don't have the opportunity to be exposed to it, number one, or number two, begin to utilize it, it's very easy to lose something you never found. And so much of that occurs in our school curriculums. And our school curriculums have been diluted out to a lot of other things that honestly aren't chiropractic. And they get in there because they're required on boards, or they're required for this reason, or because somebody had this particular thing that they wanted to get into the system. And then chiropractic tends to get pushed to the sidelines. So we really got to pull that chiropractic aspect back in to the center and heart of chiropractic. It doesn't make all other things bad by any stretch of the imagination, but chiropractic's chiropractic. And at the end of the day, if somebody's got a fifth lumbar subluxation, you can sing to them, you can massage them, you can take them for a walk, but at the end of the day, that fifth lumbar subluxation needs a specific adjustment. Only thing that's there for. If that weren't true, Jim, I wouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah, I know that there's a deep-rooted concern for me as well, as they're starting to take chiropractic out of the titles of chiropractic colleges, and they're becoming chiropractic universities, or they're becoming some type of a health science. And, I think that that's a concern to me, being, on the front lines with understanding where the puck is going, if you will. I understand that we have to retain like you said time and time again during the interview, the principles. And, I've talked to numerous chiropractors across the board, and one of my questions is kind of the same one I asked you is, well, why did chiropractic become so attractive for others to try to infiltrate and to change it? And why did it have to be something where we had to set these type of educational boundaries around it, to where somebody had to get this type of a medical education to be a chiropractor? And I think that when we think of chiropractic, this is the next question, I guess, for you. Is it's a little off top or off schedule as well, but thinking about protecting the sacred trust and those principles, do you think that chiropractors just don't take that serious enough?
I don't think, a couple of things. One, to your last point, I don't think chiropractors maybe understand how important that is. I think it's very easy for us, and myself included in practice, to take for granted how good something is until all of a sudden one day we'll wake up and go, oh my gosh, it's gone. Then all of a sudden there'll be an awakening and we'll go, what did we do? And to your last point, why is chiropractic so attractive? Right now, chiropractic is more attractive to the medical profession, physical therapists. I just had a request from a physical therapist to teach Gonstead up in Minnesota. And I said, no, I'm sorry, but this is for chiropractors only. And the one reason only for that is because chiropractic gets results where all else failed them. And that's the only reason. And the reason chiropractic gets results where all else fails, because chiropractic can only get results when it's a chiropractic problem. And other people are recognizing that. And so that makes it very attractive to anybody looking for where's the market going. So as the market starts to become, which is the population, as the market starts to go, you know what? I do believe maybe my body was made to heal itself. And maybe reading about this opioid epidemic, maybe taking a drug for everything that I've got going on is not a good idea. Then they start to go, what else can I do? And you can teach a person to eat well, you can teach them to think well, you can teach them to move well. All important items, very important items. But the one thing a patient cannot do for their own health is to correct a vertebral subluxation in their spine. And if that vertebral subluxation interferes with brain to tissue cell flow of mental impulse, there's just nothing else going to fix it other than chiropractic adjustment. And that's where we fit into the puzzle. And again, that is why we are talking today, Jim, me and you, because of that very thing. And it happened way back in 1895, and we had chiropractors went to jail for it. And, I think the more you can keep spreading that message and remind chiropractors of who they are and where they came from. It's kind of like an American that forgot how good it is to be free until all of a sudden they find out one day they wake up and go, I can't make any decisions myself anymore. That might be a problem.
Yeah, I think that the freedom in America and the chiropractic profession, they parallel each other quite well, actually. And I think that, chiropractic is a free healing art. And that's what we do with Chiro Hustle, honestly, Josh, is we keep free speech alive and well in the chiropractic profession. And we support chiropractic to live outside the four walls of chiropractic, not to be attacked by others, but to give a voice to the world that needs to know what chiropractic truth is. And I think that that's really the hallmark and the strength of what we're doing on a journalistic front, is to showing the community at large, not the chiropractic community so much, but the people that need to, once they search for chiropractic, they find an episode, possibly yours, and they're like, wow, that's why chiropractic is so powerful, because it's the same semblance of freedom as it means to be an American. It's the same semblance of the medical industry not owning the rights to what chiropractic stands for.
That's absolutely true, Jim. I'm with you 100% there. And there's nothing more satisfying in my office than when a patient comes through and I can see in their eyes that they've made a switch, a paradigm switch, where they say, Dr. Josh, I am choosing chiropractic because I want that as part of my life. And just the same, I want someone to be able to say, you know what? I choose not to have chiropractic as part of my life. But if they don't know what they get to make the decision or choice about, that's our fault as a profession. We have got to explain to them what it is we do so that they can choose that. But that's a whole different story than a patient that comes through and says, Doc, I've got low back pain, and I want you to fix it for me. That patient does not get where health comes from, nor will they ever get truly well until they take that ownership. And once they do, then they can have the freedom that you're talking about to do what they need to do. And once that occurs, chiropractic is second to nobody. We've got the best product in healthcare, second to nobody. And I guarantee you that. Doesn't mean any of the other healthcare professions are any less valuable. If you're bleeding out, my golly, I hope you find a good surgeon. But if you have a spinal subluxation, I hope you find a chiropractor that knows what the hell they're doing and can fix it.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Dr. Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, MoveWell University, the Black Diamond Club, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Universal Traction Systems, Vantage Point Marketing, Element Mattresses, Imaging Services, Zinget Solutions, Chiro Thin, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, and Everest Chiropractic Boot Camp. Let's hustle. Yeah, it's hard for me to talk to you right now because I hear the truth so pure in what you say, and it makes sense because the program of conversation, it's amongst the hallways at the chiropractic events that we go to. It's on the podcasts that we conduct with people, but it's so true that there should be a 2-doctor or 3-doctor paradigm, but the chiropractor definitely has their rightful stance as one of the doctors in that paradigm. And I think that the more that people get sick and tired, like you were mentioning earlier, the way that they get onto different types of outside-in care, that they're desperately looking for an answer, And if chiropractors actually deliver the goods and they know how to check and adjust, then they will thrive as a profession. And I do think what you said earlier is people are looking for an answer, and they don't want to, go the route that they see in the news for, XYZ is happening to their communities because of this type of problem with the drug industry. And I've always said this too, Josh, is it's not us against them, man. It's the personal choice of the individual to understand what's best for them, and they're us and them. And I think the chiropractic profession has been marginalized for so long that now people are starting to realize that it's not just for the, what you said also is the neck pains and back pains type cases. It's a lifestyle commitment. And when people actually invest into chiropractic care, it's really not that pricey of a proposition to standard good principled care, year in and year out.
Well, absolutely, Jim. You're right on there. And I just talked to a good friend of mine, mentor Dr. Rick Burns today, and he was talking about a study they did back in the 80s where they took Medicare patients and compared them to Medicare patients who also utilized chiropractic care. So if you wanted to know the future of healthcare, take this stat. He said that there was a $10,000 less expenditure for patients who also utilize chiropractic care. $10,000 a year less. Now you multiply that by 65 million baby boomers, and now you're talking some huge, not only health savings, but financial savings. So chiropractic still to this day is the best bargain on the planet, by far.
Yeah, and also, Dr. Josh, when people get, sidetracked on some type of a health conditioning drug that keeps them going, they don't realize the fact that there's usually not a stop time for that. But when they actually start getting under chiropractic care, their body starts naturally repairing, and they don't have the same type of necessity for those types of interventions long term.
Yeah, you're right on, Jim. It doesn't matter what your condition is that you deal with. You may be a thyroid patient, adrenal patient, you may have menstrual problems, you may have digestive problems. Any situation that you function with in a subluxated state, you have more trouble with. It's really just that simple. One of my last patients this morning was a young lady with Lyme's disease, and she's been adjusted, I think, half a dozen times now. And she can't believe how much better she is feeling and functioning overall, just with 6 adjustments. And, the only thing that's changed is the adjustment.
Yeah, and, with your direct analysis of x-ray and motion palpation or range of motion testing, you have a different type of looking glass, if you will, to be able to see where somebody's pain points are coming from. And then when you do that palpation and you feel on that vertebrae, most people don't even know how crummy they actually feel there until you actually pinpoint to where their pain point is. And then they're like, holy cow, this is something serious. Can you help me with that?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'll take you one further, Jim. What about patients that can't communicate with you? The way I was trained was that we should be able to take care of a deaf, mute patient. Meaning if they can't hear you and can't talk to you, you should be able to check their spine and confidently know whether or not they should be adjusted, number one. Number two, where they should be adjusted. And number three, how best to adjust them. And then the last thing is you should be able to do that. So case in point, I just had an email from a colleague of mine. In a week's time, I'll bet you I get 15 to 20 cases come across my email just with colleagues. I mean, we've got a whole network of people. There's a whole Gonstead group on Facebook forum that do a fabulous job. But I get private emails all the time with cases. And I had one just this morning, little baby, and after the baby was born, had a weird condition where the sutures of the skull all fused. And this was within the first couple of months of life. So they surgically went in there and opened those sutures of the skull back up. So the baby started to heal from the surgery, et cetera. And what the baby was having trouble with was suckling. And when it would suckle, it could get nutrients in, but it just didn't have a good suckle reflex. And everything would drain down the mouth. And the child always had the head up and had a twitch. And so when we looked at the films, we actually had films from the university here on it, and the chiropractor was checking. And I just talked to the chiropractor this morning. She says, yep, it's exactly, there was 3 of us, all 3 of us said, check the upper cervical AS occiput. And so she's checked it, and that's what was there. But there's no way that child could say, listen, I've got a pain point here, or my stomach hurts here. The only way for that child to know whether or not it needed to be adjusted is to be checked by someone that's qualified to do that. And in the Gonstead work, we have a whole parameter of checklists. Number one, we want to know, is there a symptomatology? Because if you can tell us what your body's doing, we want to know about it. Number two, we're going to visualize you. We're going to look and see, how are you moving? Are the SI joints moving? Are the knees following through as they should? Are you heel toe strike normal with your feet? Is the foot moving backwards? Are the arms swinging properly? Then we're going to run our hand down your back, and we're going to statically palpate. And we're going to run an instrument down your back for objective evaluation of interference from brain to tissue cell. And then we're going to turn around and motion palpate the areas that we find are involved. And if we find a subluxation where there's an instrument reading, a static and motion palpation finding at that joint, we're going to confirm it with the x-ray and see if that makes sense biomechanically. And if it does, we're going to adjust it based on that specific angle and listing, not just push on the bone, but we're going to push on the right bone in the right direction. And then we got to decide which table to use. And that's how we were trained in the Gonstead work for every single patient. So we've got an analysis not only to check if a patient needs an adjustment, but more importantly to know if they don't need an adjustment. And that's something we don't talk about in method chiropractic.
Yeah, and something you said there made me think about certain cases, and not to say that kids are like animals, but it's when people will adjust like a canine, they realize that the dog doesn't say anything either, but responds well to getting their vertebrae realigned and to give it function back in its body too. And there's so many cases where people are inaudible, like babies and animals, where there's a positive response to an adjustment, and they don't have to say anything. You can just tell from their behavior shift. Absolutely. And just between me and you, Jim, we have a lot of patients that like to bring their dogs to visit. And cats. The oddest one I ever had a patient bring to visit was a goose. And you can edit that part out if you want, but honest to God, and you would not believe the outcome of the case. It was cool. So did you adjust the goose? I did indeed. The goose got attacked by this dog, and it dislocated its wing and its knee. And so when she brought it, was a pet goose. So I had already taken care of this lady and helped her with a couple other pets. And she said, look at my goose. So here she comes with this goose, and when she got the goose out, it would stand up on the one leg, and then it would flop the one wing, and it would just kind of go in a circle because the whole right side, there was just nothing there. And this had been for 3 weeks. And so I set the leg, and I strapped it, and then I set the wing, which actually I believe was the hip. I had a heck of a time finding anatomy of a goose online. And and so I set the wing, and we brought it back in about 4 days, and it was just starting to move the leg a little bit. And within a month, that goose was flying. That's the funniest thing anybody's ever told me. It was cool.
So what are some of your key marketing strategies, and what's your real-world marketing education?
Oh boy, I would have to defer to you guys. My marketing strategy is pretty simple. I work with patients, and they get results, and then they refer. So I'm kind of old school that way. Mine's almost all word of mouth. I will say I do a fair bit of email in terms of, like, if patients need something, they can get to me with an email. I'll call patients, especially if someone's having a lot of trouble with something. I'll call them, talk to them, see where they're at. And then we do, like, every couple of weeks, we'll just put a little ad in the newspaper. And my wife sends out a monthly email blast that we get with chiropractic information. So, that is definitely not my forte, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on that.
Well, yeah, I'll take the lead on this, and I'll pass it to Luke a little bit too. So, I think that anybody out there that's listened to us realize that we're content creators, and the podcast is one channel of that. But I also think that people have to mature their social media platforms. They have to stay active and involved. Even if it's not, overly time consuming, they have to build a strategy, a week-to-week strategy for an entire year. And they have to start putting out content a couple times a week at least on Facebook and Instagram, and they have to start their presence, especially chiropractors, on YouTube. And I think that once you start tackling those big three and you start putting out consistent content, you'll start getting referrals, and you'll start building your practice on the social media platforms. And I think that most people don't think of YouTube as social media, but it really is a great marketing strategy for chiropractors when you can come up with 52 condition-specific ideas and make a video a week and do a Facebook Live on that, and then to strip the audio and to possibly make a podcast out of what you're doing, and then to take that and put it onto a YouTube video, and then to put, tag that YouTube video. I just think that there's so much to do on the social media level, and, talking offline stuff. I think that people really have to get out and do spinal screenings or scheduling events, like I call them, at their local community events, whether it's Summerfest, a Fall Fest, Health Fair, some type of a county fair, state fair. You have to get out there and make a presence for yourself, and really get yourself into your community and harvest your community. As we are from Iowa, you have to harvest the field. Well, you have to harvest the new patients too. And whether you're harvesting those new patients off of social or at a booth space that you go out to your community, I think that that's what I would definitely tell anybody that's interested in learning how to grow their practices, because some of them don't have great referral practices like you, Dr. Josh.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've got a lot of colleagues that utilize those services you're talking about in those avenues, and they make a world of difference. We were just talking not too long ago. We really need to look into that a little bit more, but just not something we've gotten into yet.
Well, a lot comes with it too, a lot more responsibility. You have to extend your bandwidth of who's taking on those responsibilities to make sure that they're done consistently. And it's not just the marketing aspect of what you start doing with that. You have to develop smart follow-up processes. So it's not only being the person out there that's pushing content, but you have to be social on social. And then when people start responding back to comments, you have to figure out how to pull them from those platforms and to get them into your roster of new patients if that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's where I think an expert like you guys is the place to do that, because that's beyond my understanding.
I would say to just start out nice and slow. Just start getting video testimonials of happy patients before they leave, and maybe get an office tour video made.
So start simple, you're saying.
Yeah, just nice and slow.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the thing I find with most offices is there has to be a unique system for delegation. You can't just assume that people are going to take something and run with it unless they feel comfortable doing it. So make sure that whoever, if it's you, it could be one of your associates. If you're out there, you have associates. It could be somebody that works in the office. I mean, there has to be some type of a responsibility for that position, and there has to be somebody that's willing to take on that workload and to actually like it, because obviously if you don't like doing something, you're not going to stick with it.
Absolutely. That's true with all office procedures. If you don't have someone that's accountable for it, it always gets pushed by the wayside.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite app or technology to keep you engaged with your audience?
Honestly, most of my engagement is face-to-face with my patients. When they're in the office, whether they're in for 5 minutes or 15 minutes, we're there 100% with them. So that's probably my number one. And then outside that, like I said, I'm still old school. Email is probably the most usable thing that I do. I do a little bit of Facebook, but I really don't get into that a whole lot with patients. I like, if they've got clinical questions, to discuss them face-to-face so I can really understand what they're asking, what they're looking for, and better assess the situation. So those are probably my top ones: email and via phone, and then face-to-face.
and this is my cautionary position with anybody that's not utilizing social media for growing their practices or being somebody that's in your community that's active, is there's going to be somebody else that graduates in the next 6 months that's going to move into your community, and they're going to harness that those procedures, and they're going to start gaining momentum. Not saying that there's competition in chiropractic, but they're going to come into whoever city it might be that might be listening to this. So I urge everybody to start their positioning with social media, because there will be a young person coming out of school soon that understands those things, that implements those things, that really takes that community and takes charge of it. And the other part of that is I love people that tell me that they have referral systems set up in their practices where they want it to be and they're doing great. But then I say caution to that too, because there's so many people out there that need your help that if you don't step up bigger, then you're missing a chance to help people that need what you have to offer to them. And I always tell people not to get too comfortable, because if you do get comfortable in your practice and you think that that's like your pinnacle, sure, man, stick with it. But I will caution everybody to, implement social media strategies, because if you don't, somebody else will be doing them and dominating your marketplace. And if you don't go out there and do this, then somebody might be missing a chance to find you as their doctor.
Right. Change with the times is what you're saying, Dan.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we can rest on what's always worked before, but the world that we live in, Dr. Josh, is one that so many people are stuck on their social media, and they might not even talk to their friends anymore to get a referral.
I honestly, Jim, I probably spend more time telling people to get off it than to get on it. We always get into the conversation of social health. I had a 14-year-old little lady in last night, and her mom was in. And so I was, of course, giving her a hard time because, her neck was bothering her. And then she goes, well, look, now I can look all the way down. I said, so were you not able to use your iPhone for the last 3 days? And she goes, no, I can use that. Why? she just laughed.
So now we're going to take a little step away from chiropractic and business, and we're just going to find out what kind of things do you like to listen to and read in your spare time? How do you spend your leisure time?
Honestly, most of my leisure time is spent doing chiropractic stuff, whether it's with the intern program or, if I do something on a seminar weekend. Outside that, my real leisure time is with my family. I really enjoy time at home with my wife, Michelle, and my two boys, Michael and Joel. That is really where my heart's at, so when I get home at the end of the day, I just thoroughly enjoy getting to come home and see them. Reading-wise, I'm typically reading emails or clinical text, things like that. And then outside that, I do enjoy reading. I've read a lot of inspirational stuff over the years. I've enjoyed things like Tony Robbins or Zig Ziglar. Like a lot of chiropractic books. I've read all of Dr. Barge's books and some of the other green books. But I also like reading on presidents, so I would say that's probably my one hobby. Like I've got some audio books in the trunk. I like to study the presidents. I think they're interesting. When you look at leadership, genuine leadership, and that's something that I think going forward our chiropractic profession needs tremendously, is genuine chiropractic leadership. And I think the only way you can have genuine chiropractic leadership is with someone that really, truly knows chiropractic. And those people, I hate to tell you this, but there's many, many, many out there that know it. There's very few out there that know it, can articulate it, and lead with it. And I think that's what kind of draws me to read about presidents. It's interesting to watch all their leadership styles and where you can. I sure would hate to open the door for politics, but you can look at the stark differences between our current president and the last president. And then I can tell you stories about Theodore Roosevelt, and the way that he handled things and did things, and Abraham Lincoln and Kennedy. All different aspects of leadership, but the office of the presidency has always been important. The office of the presidency doesn't change, and chiropractic's a lot that way. Chiropractic doesn't change, hasn't changed. The human body and nerve system, they don't change. And therefore, we as chiropractors really need to understand that and hang on to that specific thing that we can do for people that they can't do for themselves and no one else can do. And that's how we can benefit our fellow human beings. That's what we're here for. Everybody's put on this planet for a reason. I truly believe that. And if we can remove interference in the brain to tissue cell and allow someone's body to function in a better manner, we've done our job. That's what it's all about.
So if people wanted to get in contact with you or learn more about you, what are some website links or contact information you could give people?
Well, my website is Lawlor Family Chiropractic, Lawlor Family Chiropractic.com. And you can email me from there. Otherwise, my personal email is jlawlor@lawlorfamilychiropractic.com. A couple other websites. I would search the Troxell Intern Program. They're on Facebook. They've got a website. Just a tremendous group of young people really working to become great chiropractors. And Gonstead Methodology Institute.com, GonsteadMethodology.com. That is the GMI website, the professional group that we teach with. That's a nonprofit group, guys, that none of the instructors with that group get paid. And I don't think that's something most of the profession knows or understands, but the group of doctors that we work with, they really do work together, not only to be excellent in Gonstead Chiropractic, but to propel the profession in the next millennium. They really want to make the profession better by doing chiropractic better. And so just great organizations. Those would be the contacts I'd tell you to use.
Awesome. Well, this is pretty much wrapping up this episode of Chiro Hustle. Is there anything that you didn't get a chance to talk about that we didn't ask you?
No, I just wanted, the only thing I wanted to mention was I just wanted to thank you guys again for all your work. I know at the Extravaganza gym, when I met you, I think I came up and said, "Hi, Dr. Chester. I'm Dr. Lawlor. Nice to meet you." And I didn't realize you weren't a chiropractor because I was just vaguely familiar with you. But honestly, I hadn't watched a lot of podcasts or listened to them or I wasn't totally familiar with what you do. I just knew a few students that, "Hey, I hear Jim Chester's going to be at the Extravaganza." I said, "That's great. Can't wait to meet him," And I thought you were a chiropractor. And knowing that you're not a chiropractor, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I think you're working through it great. Stay the course and look for principled chiropractors, and you guys are going to just do fabulous.
Well, some could argue that we're media doctors.
Media doctor, there you go. I'll take it.
Well, I appreciate meeting you back there at the Gonstead Extravaganza too, and it's going to open up so many doors for us to be able to offer our expertise to the Gonstead group and the Troxell group, and really be somebody that really fosters a different angle for success in the chiropractic profession. And I think that we're forever grateful for the work that we're allowed to do and the space that we're allowed to hold. And I think that that's something really special. Even on the toughest days that we have definitely got ourselves into a position where we've done the Napoleon Hill trilogy. We become known, we become liked, we become trusted. And it gives us the opportunity to interview top chiropractors like yourself and be able to share your story with the people and maybe open up some people's minds and eyes to what's really happening in the future of chiropractic and where are you today.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jim. There's so many good people out there in chiropractic, so many wonderful chiropractors taking care of people. It's worth the time. I was going to invite you too, Jim. Don't forget, if you need a trip back home, November 10th and 11th, that's our next seminar right in downtown Davenport. We're going to do a 50th year celebration for the Troxell Intern Program. So you email me if you want any of the details. I'd love to put you up and have you come visit.
Hey, I'll definitely be in touch. It might be something we can negotiate and make happen for both of us, and really help people. I could possibly do something on social media and help some people realize that it's important.
Oh, that'd be great, Jim. You just let me know and I'll send you all the details.
Perfect.
Well, Dr. Lawlor, I want to thank you again for being our guest today. This has been a really insightful episode.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, okay?
Yeah, you too.
All
Thanks.
right. Take care.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.